Literally fuck knows why this wasn't officially called Scream 5. It's not a prequel, it isn't a reboot or a remake, and every sequel in the series up until now have embraced consecutive numbers. Sure, it could easily be defined as a requel, but this installment is a continuation of an ongoing narrative, so throughout the review I will be referring to it as Scream 5, not Scream for this reason, and also in the name of flirting with anyone who has an arithmomania fetish. 11 years after the events of Scroforum, Ghostface returns for more stabby rip stab stab, so it's up to some new and old faces to stop Father Death before the population of Woodsboro becomes more massacred than my ex's DMs after I've had a smidgen of bourbon. The majority of the audience is going to be made up of people wanting to see the masked murderer slice and dice. They won't be disappointed as there's plenty of buckknife related homicide that occurs regularly enough to avoid impatience. I would say it's the goriest chapter so far, however the butchery isn't overly creative or diverse, so if you want to see a Scream killer embrace variety in that respect, I'd check out the extremely underrated first 2 seasons of the TV adaptation on Netflix. If you're feeling masochistic enough, by all means have a gander at the unrelated third one on YouTube, but be warned it's basically pixelated penguin shit. Anyway, the build up to the deaths are virtually errorless. Firstly, Ghostface's trademark phone banter is on point, but what I liked the most about the journey to the demise is that it isn't consistent. Sometimes our antagonist goes for gold straight away, but in contrast would also draw it out for a fastidious duration. It was also refreshing to see the music being used to enhance the suspense instead of the same section of soundtrack being blindly slapped on top of the visuals in the hope that some form of synchrony and positive contribution is achieved. See Halloween Kills for an example of that type of fuck up. The acting is erratic. I'm attributing this to the members of the cast being on different levels to each other in terms of raw talent, but overall it's inoffensive. What's the exact opposite of inoffensive is how unbelievably meta it is, even for this franchise. I don't know if it's because this seems to be the new formula sequels are manufactured from, so the writers decided to put it on steroids, or that they're aggressively projecting their frustration over the fact that they're practically handcuffed to this status quo. Regardless, despite it being too heavy on the meta, Scream 5 mercifully spares us from being waterboarded by nostalgia. There's Easter eggs scattered about for sure, as well as a tasteful tip of the hat towards the late great Wes Craven, and the member berries buffet for as little as makes no difference ends there. Fuck, even the legacy characters are by no means the protagonists in this film. If anything, I would say their involvement was barely above minimal, but it didn't give me the impression that they were passing the metaphorical torch. It was more like a here, hold this for 114 minutes and try not to get burnt kind of situation, and despite my earlier comments about the acting, I thought that the collective gusto and respect shown by the new guys towards Craven's previous work prevented the flames from licking harder than my tongue caresses any surface recently occupied by any female. Fuck it, I don't even care if they're Scottish at this point. Since Scream 5 at its core is a whodunit, I suppose it would be remiss of me if I didn't talk about the grand reveal. Don't worry, I'm not going to spoil the identity of the killer or killers in this video, not that kind of monster. However, it's fairly easy to work out who he, she, or they are once the motive is established, which occurs long before the mask is removed, and up until that point you're waiting for the movie to catch up. Naturally, this dilutes suspense, but what really slayed the immersion for me is the fact that the stunt performers playing Ghostface had a completely different physique to the storyline's killer or killers. Was it a deliberate red herring planted by the filmmakers? Fuck knows, but even before my guesstimate was made official, I found it irritating and it was outright pissing me off during my second viewing. So if it was a calculated attempt at misleading, it only succeeded in guiding me to contemplating nail-gunning its cunt to my naughty step. Scream 5 has unlocked the easily attainable it's alright achievement. It by no means elevates the reputation of the franchise and certainly doesn't blemish it either. Unlike season 3 of the TV adaptation, which puts a negative mark on the legacy so savage it makes the ones I slap on your mum look like a gentle airbrush effect.